Hey everypony. Well, I'm back to finish up this little story, the Beat Stream. And like I said after last time, for anyone who was a little weirded out by the previous events, this is a lot more straightforward, sexy time, and I just hope y'all enjoy. I also decided, since the third and last chapter is a lot shorter than the second, I'll just put them both into one video and just keep this whole story a two-parter. So, I hope you all enjoy, and once again, I want to say thanks to my lovely friend Brelia9794 for her vinyl scratch voice. She did a great job yet again. So let's finish this up, shall we? Part 2. Sex. You follow Vinyl to the end of the princess-sized bed, meeting her as she hops on top of the covers, her shades magically setting down on the nightstand. She turns toward the head of the bed and falls onto her side, her hooves sticking straight out, and tail curled around her flanks. So, you try your hand at being the first to speak. What do you have planned?
Well,
She starts, turning her head to meet yours.
I was thinking we could cuddle up together and fall asleep in each other's hooves. How does that sound?
The small grin you had drops. You want to cuddle? You say, trying your hardest to mask your disappointment. Vinyl's straight face disappears as she lets out a few laughs.
I'm just messing with you.
She says between giggles.
You really didn't think I'd pee in front of you just to force you to fall asleep with a loaded cannon between your legs, did you?
Maybe for a second, you reply, shifting around on your hooves a bit. Vinyl's line had reminded you of how warm you were feeling downstairs, enough that it was getting rather uncomfortable. It's not so bad, though, you lie. At least, not as bad as the pressure you had to be feeling a few minutes ago.
I'm used to that, actually.
Explains Vinyl.
Some of my gigs go on for almost the whole night. Not to mention the bathroom lines are ridiculously long. And I usually can't get away from other ponies long enough to sneak outside and whiz behind a dumpster or something.
Dang, doesn't sound like fun, you reply. Her trials sound unpleasant for sure, but it also makes you appreciate how easy colts like you have it when it comes to relieving a full bladder.
Like I said, it's not a big deal for me. If I have to let it go on someone's carpet in front of a crowd, so be it.
A smirk grows on her face.
Not that you wouldn't mind seeing that, I'd wager.
Possibly, you mutter while your brain flashes an image of Vinyl doing just that. As quickly as it leaves, another idea enters her mind. So, what about you? We've been talking about what I'm into all night. I'd like to know what Vinyl Scratch is into.
Oh, that. Hate to disappoint, but compared to you, I'm a bit of a bore when it comes to how I like to have fun in bed.
I wouldn't be so sure of that, you chuckle. You said it yourself, it's all relative.
I suppose. I remember saying something like that.
Says Vinyl. A moment later, she lifts her head slightly upwards and brings a forehoof to her chin.
Now there's an idea.
An idea? Any juicy details?
Plenty.
Vinyl returns her attention to you as she rolls onto her back, keeping her hind legs locked together while letting her tail fall onto the mattress.
Since I've already done something that you enjoy, how about we start with you doing something I like?
Sounds fair. Have anything in particular in mind?
Oh, I know just what I want.
At this, Vinyl shuffles back to where the wall meets the bed and props her upper body on the pillows. Once settled in, she raises a hind leg in the air, a hoof pointed towards you.
My legs are always killing me after a long gig.
Her hoof gives a slight wiggle at you.
Mind giving them a rub for me?
You don't need to study expression reading techniques to understand the gesture. You lift your forehooves onto the mattress and prop yourself on your rear limbs. You blush a little when you realize that this position makes your excitement very visible to her, but at least she has some entertainment to go along with her rub. Once you find your balance, what kind of creature walks on just two limbs anyway? You take Vinyl's hanging hoof into yours. Although you've felt it before, This is the first time you can pay attention to how her legs feel without being bombarded by other sensations. Especially her tongue. It's as warm as you remembered it, but her limb feels more toned than you expected. You never considered Vinyl to be the athletic type, but the more you think of it, the more it makes sense. The DJ lifestyle isn't the most glamorous, and who knows what kind of creeps hang out in the clubs, waiting for their chance to pounce. Shaking the thought of some perv laying a hoof on Vinyl, well, one more dangerous than you, out of your mind, you return your focus to giving her the massage she requested and deserved. You begin with slow, short rubs between her hock and hoof, little more than a simple back-and-forth motion to whet her appetite. Her coat isn't the most well-kept in Equestria, not that you were expecting such, but you enjoy the way the individual hairs tickle the base of your hooves as you rub. She appears to enjoy things as well, as Vinyl leans her head back, letting her eyes close and smile grow wider.
Yeah, just like that.
She mutters.
Mind the hooves, though. They're a bit ticklish.
The thought of giving Vinyl the worst tickling she's ever had enters your mind, but you ignore it. Best to save that for another time. Instead, you renew your massage, working a steady back-and-forth pattern and adding a circular motion while you find and rub away any portion of her leg that feels even the slightest bit sore. With each knot you locate, Vinyl lets out a relaxed coo, letting you know of your possible future career as her personal permanent masseuse. You could think of plenty of worse jobs to be stuck with.
And where do you think you're going?
Huh? You blink at her question, but realize what she's talking about when you glance down at her leg. While you were lost in your masseuse fantasy, your hooves had steadily worked lower, now inches away from the inside of her haunches. My bad. You give her the cutest grin you can, even going so far as to let your ears fold flat.
Once again, I like your eagerness,
says Vinyl.
but you still have another leg to work on.
At this, she lowers the leg in your hooves, and lifts up the other one for you. Sure thing, you reply, as you place your hooves on the limb. You continue your massage, giving the utmost care into each stroke, and making it your sole duty to remove any sore spots you can find, for this mare certainly deserved to be treated as such.
That's more like it.
Sighs Vinyl, her eyes falling shut again.
That's nice.
You smile at her approval of your skills. Not the biggest fan of DJ legs, I take it.
You have no idea.
Well, you're talking to another DJ, you know.
True,
She smirks a little at her own forgetfulness.
but I thought you also have a thing for nice, slow leg rubs. Oh, keep working that spot there.
This one? You ask as you work a circular motion on the area just above her hock, taking care to avoid going too far up her leg again. Vinyl responds with a long sigh. You figure you're on the right track either way. You must have a lot of fun at spa visits, you muse.
Never been.
Replies Vinyl between coos.
Not really my thing. Besides, why pay for an expensive massage if I can get good ones for free?
Good point. You glance down at the leg you've been working on, starting with her toned flank and moving down to her hoof, left untouched at her request. As you look, you come up with an idea, the perfect way to end this massage. You finish up your work on her limb, taking care to brush most of her hair back in its proper place, although you doubt it will stay there for long. Then, before she can withdraw it, you bring your face down to the hoof and lightly touch the top of it to your lips. Vinyl's eyes snap open at your kiss, her relaxed smile dropping into a neutral position as she looks straight at you. You force a squeaky smile, your face half hidden behind her hoof. Perhaps that was a bit too much.
You know, I haven't had the chance to wash my hooves yet.
You try to keep your smile as best you can in the face of this new, somewhat gross information, but falter when you recall exactly where you know Vinyl's hooves have been in the last few hours. You quietly thank the fact that you at least didn't touch it with your tongue.
Don't tell me you're into that, too.
Jokes Vinyl. Not that I know of. Your eyes shift back and forth a couple times. That wasn't too much, was it?
Nah, it takes a lot more than that to kill the mood for me. Now then.
At this, Vinyl's leg lowers out of your grasp, falling back onto the bed. With nothing to grab onto, you place your forelimbs on the edge of the bed for balance.
It's time we discussed your payment for that lovely massage.
You raise an eyebrow and reply, "Payment?" At least a dozen ideas spring to mind at that one word, all of them gutter-minded, save for the idea of outright monetary payment.
Yes, and I think I know just how to return the favor,
she says, her eyes drifting away from you, and towards the very visible, very excited part of your body. You feel your face grow red again, but resist the urge to cover yourself once more. Okay, so how exactly do you plan on repaying me? Your body locks in place, your voice climbs a few octaves, and anything remotely resembling a coherent thought flees from your mind as you feel something brush ever so lightly against your loins, hundreds of warm, tiny bristles tickling the smooth skin and muscle. Who knew even Vinyl Scratch's tail could feel so good? But just as quickly as it came, the feeling disappears when Vinyl lets her tail fall back on the bed, leaving your body to linger in the aftershock.
Will this do?
She asks with a tone that suggests she already knows the answer.
I mean, we spent all night relieving only my pressure. It's only fair we release some of yours as well.
Your reply comes in the form of a few jerky nods and a moan that somewhat resembles an uh-huh. You try to force a smile, but your muscles are too busy dealing with the surge in pleasure you felt just a moment ago to form a more coherent response.
And I suppose you deserve the same entertainment I had from my massage, too,
muses Vinyl. Before you can ask, she repositions herself on the bed, moving closer to you and resting her head back on the pillow. She then parts her hind legs, leaving a gap wide enough to still see her face. But it's not her face that has your attention. Glancing down, you once again have the honor of a close and personal view of Vinyl Scratch's private regions, only more so than in the shower. You can now see the entirety of the pink line that hides the rest of her marehood, and it's just as tempting as before.
Oh, and one more thing.
Vinyl calls your attention back to her other, less private set of lips. You're certain you have the reddest blush you've ever had in your life at this point.
Let me know if you're about to leave a mess, okay?
Yeah, sure thing. Even with an empty bladder, she definitely does not waste any time. Even if you didn't want it to, the conversation comes to an abrupt end when you once more feel her tail tease your lower portion. She works slowly, letting every single electric blue hair slide across your loins before dragging it in the opposite direction, working a back and forth movement not too different from your massage. As much as you try, you can't stop yourself from letting out a constant flow of moans and gasps. You eventually give in to the pleasure, letting your eyes close and mouth contort into something resembling a smile, while your head leans towards the ceiling. You had never considered the possibility of using a tail for a nature this sensual, but now that you feel one brushing against you, by a mare like Vinyl Scratch no less, you now wished you had brought up the idea with your exes at least once. That, and possibly your thing involving urine, but the tail idea would probably have gone over better. At least you can say you're getting to experience this wonderful sensation now. But didn't she also say you had a view to enjoy as well? You force your eyelids apart and lower your head back down to look at the other part of your reward, still out in the open for your pleasure. Despite already being at full attention, you could swear you feel yourself growing stiffer just from the sight. It certainly is a lovely view, almost intoxicating in a way. You can only imagine how it would feel once the main event starts. On second thought, why do you have to wait? She didn't say you couldn't do more than just watch after all. While she focuses on giving you tantalizing tail tickles, you shift your balance as much as you can off one of your forelimbs. With that taken care of, you lift it up and move it towards her bottom, hopefully before she notices. No such luck. Your hoof is only mere inches away when you feel it lock in place, surrounded by a blue aura.
Oh, no you don't.
says Vinyl, bringing her tail to a stop. You don't want to, but you lift your head to look at what could possibly be the worst scowl you've ever seen and face your punishment. Except she's not scowling. In fact, her smile hasn't faded in the slightest.
Hooves are too cold and rough for my liking,
She explains with an unchanged tone while her smile takes on a devilish grin.
but mouths on the other hoof.
You blink a couple times to help you make sure you had heard exactly what she said before a smile creeps onto your lips. Sounds like you have more kinks than you thought. A little giggle escapes Vinyl's lips.
Well, if you're so eager to please, then I might as well point you in the right direction.
I seek to give only the best for the mare who agrees to do her business in front of me, you joke.
Well, don't I feel special?
Says Vinyl.
Now,
Without breaking eye contact, Vinyl leans her upper body into the bed and lifts her hind legs to the ceiling, leaving a sizable gap where she can still see you. You, on the other hoof, are too distracted by the new angle this gives you. Every last detail of her gender now lies exposed for your entertainment. You find yourself almost mesmerized at the way it shows signs of a budding arousal, the way a certain wrinkled portion nearly blends in just above her tail, and the way her flanks curve around and complement the entire region.
we're going to stand here talking all night, or do you want to have some fun?
She asks as she brings a hoof down and gives a playful tug to herself. You don't need any more incentive than that. You spread your forelegs apart and lower your head down to the awaited spot. You take a couple experimental sniffs, noting a very warm and distinct scent, one different from the sharp and obnoxious odor that was her urine. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot Vinyl twitch a little from your breath. Best not to keep her waiting any longer. You decide to start with another attempt at a romantic gesture, leaning your head right up to her and giving a soft kiss in the middle of the petals. You feel Vinyl inhale sharply from your touch, as well as a new dampness on your lips, and you're certain and thankful it's not pee. You keep going, planting teasing kisses up and down the opening, causing Vinyl to make a wide assortment of noises. You especially enjoy the combination of a gasp and moan she makes when you kiss a particular nub at the top, and you have a feeling she does too. You hope she enjoys the noises you make as well, as you once more feel her tail swipe across your personal area, this time along the upper portion of the shaft. At least she can appreciate the vibrations caused from you moaning right into one of her sensitive areas. If she wants to play that way, that's fine by you. Spurred on by the incredible workings of her tail, you work her labia even harder, switching from gentle kisses to outright licking. You trail your tongue all over, occasionally venturing inside to get a better taste of her. To be honest, you wouldn't consider it the best thing you've ever tasted, much unlike what those dirty novels like to proclaim, but the mere fact that you're getting to do this at all is more than enough to make up for it. You can't be entirely certain that she enjoys this newfound aggression of yours, but you have a few hints. First, she's gotten quite a bit louder. Secondly, she's also much wetter than when you'd started. The most noticeable clue, however, is the increased fervor that her tail works at, sacrificing finesse and going for raw sensory overload. It's working, too. With each frantic flick against you, the pressure in your loins builds, the muscles in your legs spasm as they struggle to keep you in position, and you moan even more inside of her. At this point, the ability for any form of rational thinking is gone. Every part of your conscious mind devoted to only two things: how insanely good you feel, and how you could possibly make Vinyl feel just as good. But you'll have to abandon the latter thought for now, as the pressure down below is now too close to the breaking point. Vinyl! Stop! You barely manage to shout in the nick of time. At once, the feeling of her tail drops away before it can stimulate you further. You feel as if the entire contents of your insides are about to fire out of you, but through sheer willpower, you somehow manage to force yourself not to let that happen. You can't, however, stop just a little bit from shooting out and landing on her tail, the one place you didn't want it to land. Sorry, you mumble once you catch your breath. You'd say more, but the pain in your loins from holding back so much soon forces you to grit your teeth hard. She doesn't answer back at first, instead preferring to lift her tail in front of her to assess the damage. Through your sheer discomfort, you notice her white face carries another shade of red, and her breathing is more labored than before.
Sorry.
She finally speaks up, with her smile coming back.
I should be thanking you. Last time I used my tail like that, I had to spend a good half hour scrubbing it clean in a shower. This
She bends her tail to give you a good look at the damage.
won't take nearly as long.
Oh, don't mention it. She lowers her tail and rear legs back down onto the bed. So are you good and ready now?
Why don't you see for yourself?
She points her forehoof down below. You follow your gaze back down to where you just had your snout buried into, and immediately understand her answer, as well as where the whole flower metaphor comes from. It certainly looked more inviting, to say the least. That is, until a strange light appears to flash from it for a brief second. You find yourself at a loss for words, and instead chose to look back at Vinyl for an answer. You then notice her horn carrying the same glow of light as her gender did just before it fades away.
Hope you weren't planning on becoming a parent soon.
Well, good thing you thought of that, is your response. So, may I?
Go for it.
With pleasure, you say. In almost no time at all, you climb onto the bed and carefully maneuver yourself just above Vinyl. In the process, you see her gaze switch from your head to your other head, and note her grin growing just a little wider. You think you know why. The pain you had felt from just barely holding yourself back is already being slowly replaced with the desire that you've more or less been repressing the entire night for Vinyl's sake. Now the foreplay was over, and you could finally release that desire in one of the best possible ways you know how. Staring right into Vinyl's eyes, you gently lower yourself to within inches of her body, letting your member lightly rest just beneath her belly. You trail it down, using the very subtle and very pleasurable feeling of her coat as a guide before it reaches something warmer and damper, letting you know that you've reached your target. You take a second to collect yourself for the big moment, and push yourself in. Both you and her gasp at the same time, your legs nearly giving out from the sensory overload. You aren't even halfway in, and already the feeling is far stronger than you imagined. If not for your previous, if limited, experience in this field, you may very well could have climaxed right here. But you steel yourself, and after a quick look at Vinyl's approving face to proceed, slide your full length inside. The sensations grow even stronger. You can feel every slight movement of Vinyl herself twitch and shift around you, her way of saying she wants the same thing you do. More. You're all too happy to oblige her wordless request. Playing to your inner romantic, you start off with gentle and slow motions, allowing you and her to appreciate the moment much like how those fancy rich folk enjoy wine at a party. The lubrication graciously provided by Vinyl's walls makes each movement feel almost frictionless, if not for the maddeningly pleasing way you feel them close around you, quietly demanding you to keep going. Vinyl herself, however, is a bit more vocal in her demands than her labia. With each push, she lets out a pleased moan, steadily growing louder and louder. You briefly wonder if you should put this session on hold for a second to ask Vinyl if she knows any soundproofing spells, but somehow you doubt you have the ability to do so.
Faster.
Huh? You come to an immediate stop to make sure you heard her right.
No more slow stuff. Just rut me.
She commands, looking you right in the eye. Her voice has lost its calm tone, and her gaze is fierce and desperate. You never believed you would ever see Vinyl this vulnerable, and yet seeing her nearly plead for you to give her the release she craves spurs something deep inside you, a drive that reminds you that despite all the civility you've come to adopt, you're still very much an animal at your core. If she wants to play rough, that's what she'll get. You speed up instantly, burying yourself to the hilt as hard as you can. Right away, your actions are rewarded with even more moaning from Vinyl, now almost bordering on outright screaming, along with the feeling of her hind legs wrapping around your flanks in an attempt to pull you in deeper. Without a doubt, she is the loudest partner you've been with, but at least this way you know she's enjoying it. Unfortunately, you doubt you can keep up this level of enjoyment for her. As amazing as it feels for you to go all out on her, it has its drawbacks. You can feel your stamina fading away and rhythm growing more unstable with each thrust. You aren't sure what you'll succumb to first, the ever-fading strength in your lower body, or the ever-rising pressure in your loins. "But Vinyl," you start to warn her, I can't keep this for much longer."
Just, little more.
She says between shouts. At this point, she could no longer look back at you, given that her eyes had nearly rolled up past her eyelids and her head was leaned back to brace herself for the inevitable. Okay, you mutter. Digging deep to muster all the energy you can, you press on. You couldn't back down now, not when she's so close. You also couldn't back down when you yourself are so close, but she matters so much more. Come on, just a little more. The pressure in you inches closer to the point of no return, but just a few more thrusts.
Fuck yes!
Several things happen at once. Vinyl gives the loudest scream she's made all night. Her body writhes and pulsates all over. Her hind legs and inner walls squeeze you as hard as they can, and you feel a certain liquid drench your already coated shaft. That did it. All the pressure and pleasure that had been mounting in explodes, obliterating every other thought and sensation in your body. You feel as if every single nerve in you has moved into one singular point, crying out in sheer pleasure as round after round of your seed bursts within her. Eventually, both of you come down from your peaks. Vinyl lets her eyes shut and legs fall onto the bed, her body still very sensitive to the slightest touch. You, however, feel only one thing, and that's pure exhaustion as all the effort you took to get the two of you to climax catches up to you. You cannot even comprehend what you're doing, or even what just happened. Though your body may be on a bed, you feel as though you're somewhere far away, not quite asleep, but not awake either. You don't even recall withdrawing from her, the walls still trying to clench down on you as if reluctant to let you go, and falling onto the bed, your eyes immediately shutting. The only things you can focus on are the steady and labored pants and breaths from the two of you, and the feelings of goodness that still sweep through your exhausted body. The rest of the world is black. Part 3. Pillow Talk. What a crazy dream. You let a smile form as you stir into consciousness, the bright sunlight beating against your closed eyes letting you know it is now the next morning. Your whole body feels heavy and tired, but oddly soothing at the same time. The mental images in your mind produced last night flash before you, the details so vivid you can almost feel the fur of your imagined lover against you, and smell the acrid stench of her bodily fluids on the floor of the cheap shower now. If only the real Vinyl Scratch knew the things you thought about doing with her, and letting her do in front of you, well, she'd probably think you were a massive pig, but you would always have your fantasies. Sadly, your fantasies will have to give way to reality as you remember your duties for today, including letting your manager know in exact detail where the hay you went to last night after the battle. Come to think of it, where did you go last night? In fact, where are you now? You decide that opening your eyes would be a good start to answering these questions. Using much more effort than you expect, you slowly force your eyelids apart.
Good morning.
And find a pair of red eyes staring back at you. Vinyl? Your eyes shoot open at the sight of the very mare you had not expected to see, her blue mane a cute mess, and what coat that wasn't hidden under the covers ruffled playfully.
Sleep well?
She asked with a smile. Wait, You reply as the memories of last night flood back into your mind. All that happened, right?
You mean you watching me take a leak in the shower and then passing out right after a bit of fooling around? I think I recall something like that occurring.
She lifts her head off the pillow and gives you an inquisitive look.
We aren't having second thoughts, are we?
No, nothing like that. You shake your head. It's just, that night was...
Yes.
It was... awesome. You allow a goofy smile to form. I thought it had to have been a dream. Another half-laugh, half-scoff escapes Vinyl's lips as she rolls onto her back.
Well, that's the first I've ever been complimented like that.
Seriously? You blink and raise an eyebrow. Your partners must have had some ridiculously high standards or something.
Perhaps.
She turns her head back to meet yours.
Although to be fair, I haven't quite been with enough partners to say something like that.
What, really? You blink.
You find that surprising? Don't some of you think I'm one of those loose mares who hump some pony just because they have a shred of talent in them?
Well, that might have been the impression I got a little last night, you admit. She stares at you for what seems like an eternity before she smiles again, much to your relief.
Okay, I admit, this might all have happened a bit sooner than it does for most ponies,
Says Vinyl.
but I do stick to one rule that most horses don't.
And that is... She lifts her foreleg up and lays it across your shoulder.
I don't screw any pony I don't plan getting into a relationship with.
Really? You ask, your voice faltering for just a moment as a warm feeling comes over you. It's that same feeling from the battle, that strange sense of everything you do with her connecting in all the right ways. It's as if it would feel natural even if you were to leap off Canterlot Mountains and straight into the valleys below as long as she made the jump with you. Hopefully it wouldn't have to come to that, but you doubt you could complain if it does. You also experience another warm feeling, this one more localized. Specifically, it's on your visible cheek, and it comes from an external source, namely the lips of Vinyl Scratch.
Does that answer your question?
She asks as she pulls away all too quickly. What, no kiss on the mouth? You reply, trying your best to act cool despite another goofy smile making its way onto your face.
Not when I know where those lips have been.
Ah, good point. You can't fault Vinyl for having some standards.
Besides,
Her eyelids lower and her smile turns into a grin.
we both know I'm the only one with any skill.
Is that so? You respond with a mischievous smirk of your own. As I recall, I think I surpassed you quite easily.
Maybe that night you did,
Replies Vinyl without missing a beat.
but only because I was holding back. If I had shown you even half my other moves, you wouldn't have lasted 10 seconds against me.
I wasn't referring to the DJ battle. You give a quick wink. As far as you were concerned, she could have that victory.
Neither was I.
Is her response, her expression not wavering in the slightest. Your grin grows wider as another thought comes to mind. Is that so? Then what do you say to a rematch and showing me some of those moves?
Maybe in a bit, but for now, I have a much better idea.
With that, Vinyl shuffles closer to you until parts of your bodies touch together, leaving your faces mere centimeters apart. You stare right into her half-lidded ruby-red eyes for a second before she leans just about your face and whispers a simple sentence right into your ear. Your grin of confidence turns into a childish and giddy smile as you replay the sentence in your mind over and over again, smooth voice and all.
I have to tinkle again.
Alright, well, like I said, hope everyone enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I suppose my fears of this story turning too many people off were unfounded. Of course, my dear Brelia's take on Vinyl probably helped that, and once again proved very satisfactory. As to what's happening next, I'm not really sure. I haven't really picked out any stories at all to do after this, and I'm also going to be pretty busy upcoming between looking for work and a load of DeviantArt requests. But hopefully I won't be gone too long. So, everypony, thanks so much once again for listening. Be safe, and both Brelia and I will catch you all later.